I'm gonna revamp one of my older, most popular Halloween looks. Fun fact, it was featured on Elder Reacts 2017, I think.
I wish you'd explain what that thing was.
Skeleton of some kind?
I'm excited to give this look a 2024 makeover. Let's get right into it. Also, please subscribe, comment, and like the video. Thanks. I'm using the eyeshadow Tentacles from the Blend Bunny Cosmetics Lair palette. Not too much eye primer because I'm not going to be using that much eyeshadow. Just going to start with the initial line. We are going for a Siren type shape and creating another line and just connecting it down. It may go out pretty far, it may go out past your eyebrow, but that does not matter. There are no rules in makeup. It doesn't matter if your eyeliner goes past your eyebrow. So I'm adding some purple to my outer lash line and just bringing it up a little bit. I am usually a bit heavy-handed with eyeshadow, but I'm trying to be pretty sparing with it. I want to kind of challenge myself to use a little bit less product but still create a cool look. I'm lightly patting right around the edge because I don't want this to be a super harsh line. I want to blend it inwards towards my lid. I'm starting by using my angled brush just to soften the line a bit. I'm going in with a shade Seductress and a fluffier angled brush and just applying this in the little corner over here and lightly blending it out towards my lid. I'm also using this color to smoke out the lash line over here. And I'm carrying this shade up and under. And then without adding any more product, I'm using another brush to blend it out. I'm bringing the dark purple along my lower lash line. And I'm blending that out with the lighter purple shade. I'm picking up a tiny bit of Jellyfish. I'm really concentrating it in this portion of my eye over here, outside of my crease. So I'm kind of trying to lighten that shadow that's there. I'm using this dark purple cosmetic paint from Plouise. It's called Ecstasy. This is a Sigma E06 brush. I like to use this product for my inner corners because it's a gel consistency and waterproof, so it works really well. I also want to extend the inner corner point up towards my crease. Making a little line and blending that. I'm using a bit of eyeshadow, just like I did on the outer portion. I'm blending it in towards my lid. I'm not quite connecting the eyeshadow. I want it to kind of fade. I'm using some of the pastel shade, especially around these little creases I have in my lid over here. Just want to make sure those are set. For my waterline, I'm using this sparkly purple eyeliner from Kaleidos. It's called Night of Creation. Sometimes I like to use the other side of a brush to pull my eyelid down gently, just to get a better angle on my waterline. I went and filmed this eye and added some makeup to my face because I wanted to do an Instagram video, but I'm gonna finish this up and then we will get to the skull. I'm using Karla Cosmetics Fix Potion, which is a clear eye primer. It's meant for loose pigments, but I wanted to try it out today to see if it helps with creasing. So I'm applying it with my eyes shut to make sure I get it in all the nooks and crannies. On top of that, I'm dabbing on a pressed Multichrome. This is from Lethal Cosmetics. It's called Amethyst. I'm using small amounts at a time because I don't want a really thick layer of eyeshadow. I want it to just be kind of shiny and sparkly. So I'm just dabbing on little amounts all over my lid. So let's just take care of that. There we go. I'm bringing this right up into my crease and using this shimmer to connect the two dark purple lines. I want to really amp up the glitter, so I'm using this product from Lethal Cosmetics. It's basically Multichrome flakes in gel form. So I'm just dabbing little amounts and really spreading it around. Also bringing these flakes out past my crease a little bit into this outer V. I'm applying House of Lashes Ethereal Light. These are a current favorite. Is that just my face? Before I go any further, I'm going to remove this gloss. I'm touching up the foundation around my lips, but also going in with some concealer to cover my lips. Honestly, this is kind of unnecessary, but I did it on this side because I wanted my video to look good, so I'm just going to do it on this side so my face is symmetrical. I'm using ColourPop's Cherry Blossom Blush. Add a tiny bit of highlight We will get back to the shimmery highlights later on. Just setting my face very lightly. I'm kind of avoiding my cheek area with the powder because I am going to be adding more shimmer and highlight, and I want it to really stick to my cheeks, so I'm not going to add any powder there. Make sure I get my mouth. Quick brow gel. I almost forgot I added a little bit of glitter eyeliner underneath my inner corner here. I'm carrying it down along my under eye just a little bit. Here we are. This is basically the base, and from here we will be doing the skull makeup. I've got my little plan over here. I'm using a thin flat brush. You can also just use an angled brush, and my dark purple eyeshadow. I'm kind of nervous. I'm going to start in the outer corner of my mouth. Once I have this line down, I kind of have an idea of where I want my other lines to go. I'm going to make the curve for the cheekbone about right here, making another line going up from the corner of my mouth. Now I have this as like a marker. I can start doing the teeth lines and make the teeth on the bottom. All right, for the top of the jawbone, I want it to be, why did that just happen? It's not supposed to be there. Well, maybe. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna do that line about right here. And using a liner brush, I'm gonna make the little loop, which is like the indent in the jawbone. I'm gonna make a line for the bottom of my jaw. I like to trim her a little bit when I'm doing skull looks. It also makes the design like more visible if you move it up, so you can see it. You can see that line from the front when I'm looking straight on. Now I'm gonna go over here to do this little doohickey over here. Just blending this in with foundation because I don't want it to go up quite that high. I'm used to being really heavy-handed, so it's kind of hard for me to be like less like that. Darken them a bit, but I'm not making them any bigger. I'm just darkening them. Now I'm using the lighter purple color and blending out the line. I'm not blending like over top of the line. I'm only shading on one side of the line. So for the cheekbone here, I'm shading up into my cheek. I'm shading out towards my hairline. For this little piece, I'm shading the purple into the negative space between my cheek and my teeth. And same with over here, I'm just shading up into the negative space. Switching over to voiceover, I'm gonna go through these first couple steps again. When I'm creating a skull makeup design on my face, I like to start with like the outer teeth because I always know where that's gonna be. I know it's gonna be coming from the corner of my mouth. It's like an anchor point for all the other bones, and my purpose with this skull design was to kind of create minimal lines that will represent the bones. I didn't want to be blending a ton of eyeshadow and like adding a ton of pigment, blending it out. I really just wanted to have a simple line work based design. The great thing about this look is that it's so customizable. Like you can use any color you want. I just always go for purple if you couldn't tell. But you can also make this look more or less complex. For me, this was kind of like the happy medium of being a complete skull look that's interesting to look at, but also relatively simple to replicate. If you're really new to makeup or you're just in a rush and you want something that's easier to accomplish in a shorter amount of time, you can definitely take out the lines that I put on each side of my forehead, and you can even take out the jawbone lines. I think this type of skull look would still be really cool with just the teeth, nose, and cheekbones. The teeth are definitely the hardest part. I always save them for last. Sometimes I just open my mouth and kind of use my own teeth as a reference to see how they line up. Honestly, most skull makeup looks that I see, I feel like the teeth are not even close to being the correct size, so it doesn't really matter. You can make them bigger or smaller, whatever you think looks cool. Once I have down my initial lines, I'm going back in with the medium purple eyeshadow color. So with the jawline, I'm shading down towards my neck, but with my cheekbone line, I'm shading up into my cheek. For the other bones, I'm shading in between in like the negative space areas, which gives the illusion of depth and the bone coming forward. outwards. I think this really conservative approach to the shading helped me like maintain the simplicity of the design. However, this method kind of went out the window when it came to shading around the teeth because I didn't want to just shade like one side of each line, so I ended up adding depth to the inner area of my lips to really separate the top and bottom teeth. And then I went ham applying the pastel purple eyeshadow basically around my entire mouth area. I wanted those darker purple teeth lines to really fade out into the lighter purple shading. And I'm not being too careful about it. I'm making it kind of irregular because human skulls are irregular. This does not have to be perfect, and we're going to be covering it up with rhinestones anyway. Once I'm done with all the blending, to really define the teeth, I'm using a darker purple eyeshadow than I was before. This one is from a Plouise eyeshadow palette, and I'm basically just adding back in those lines that I already had. I'm adding a touch of this deeper dark purple shade to my other bones just to bring the design together, make it cohesive, and also achieve maximum gradient potential. And last but not least, we gotta fill in the nose, and oh wait, I forgot, we are also doing the chest. Now, of course, if you want to keep this simple, you don't have to do anything on your chest or collarbones, but I just can't resist. After priming the area with foundation, I'm just setting with translucent powder and also resetting my face because I have been sweating and I needed it. I saw the opportunity to use purple blush and I took it. These blushes are from Blend Bunny's Juicy Cheeks palette. I'm shading around the top of my neck and bringing that around the sides of my neck and down towards my collarbone area. I'm just starting with a basic chest design using my own collarbones as a guide. As I move further down my chest, I like to do these little kind of, I don't know what to call it other than like a C or a backwards C type shape, and this is basically to imply a sternum and ribs coming out. Obviously it's simplified and not very anatomically correct, but that is what we are implying here. Once I have the design down, just like I did with my face, I'm adding shading to one side of each line. I'm using the medium purple color here. I decided to start with this one and then go in with the lighter shade to really buff it out into my skin. And then for the last step, I'm going in with the darkest purple color and adding in those really well-defined lines. Finally, it's time to add some shimmer and sparkle. Using Karla Cosmetics Fix Potion, I'm priming in segments. I'm applying it to one section and then before it dries, applying the loose pigment over top and then moving on to the next section and repeating the same steps. This pigment is absolutely amazing, one of my all-time favorites. A brand called Makeup Addiction Cosmetics used to sell it, but I don't think that Makeup Addiction Cosmetics is still making cosmetics, so I don't think it's available anymore. I actually used it in my original purple glam skull look from back in the day, which is why I really wanted to use it again for this look. It has that sentimental value for me, and I personally don't really have a dupe for it. I could probably get a similar vibe with a few eyeshadows, but I'd have to use like the entire pan, and I was not about to do that. Moving back up to my face, I'm applying the glittery pigment to pretty much every bone. After highlighting my jaw, I realized I forgot to shade my hairline, so I'm just using the purple blush from earlier. And then going back to the same steps of priming in sections and then adding pigment over top. So making my forehead very shiny. Usually I don't want a shiny forehead, but in this case I want a very shiny forehead. This step is crucial. I feel like highlighted cheekbones are one of the main focal points of a glam skull makeup look. I'm using a thin concealer brush to apply the pigment to each individual tooth because you also want shiny teeth with a glam skull. My shiny teeth that twinkle just like the stars in space. Chip Skylark, I just remembered that song. To add in the highlight around my nose, I'm using that chrome flake gel that I used earlier on my eyes from Lethal Cosmetics. And I'm using it pretty sparingly, but I just wanted to really highlight some smaller areas on the face, around a couple bones, and also the inner corners of my eyes. It's bedazzling time, otherwise known as rhinestone o'clock. I actually wasn't super confident in the placement, so when I started, I used white eyeliner to make some white dots to plan out where I was going to put the rhinestones. Oh my gosh, thunder. I had to wait for the storm to be over, but I'm just using lash glue to adhere these rhinestones. I'm pretty sure this lash glue is from Milk Cosmetics. I wanted a lot, but also a good balance. I didn't want to end up covering my entire face with rhinestones. So I'm placing them strategically to emphasize certain areas of the skull, kind of like the areas of bone that would be coming forwards if you were looking at an actual skull, and also framing and complementing the lines of my design. If you're trying to adhere rhinestones on your face for an event and you need it to last, I probably wouldn't recommend using eyeliner to figure out your placement, especially if you use water-activated eyeliner like I just did. It can definitely compromise the glue because your skin is sweating or whatever, and it'll mess up the eyeliner, which is underneath the glue. Also would not recommend trying to adhere rhinestones over top of any oily or grease products. Other than that, it's a pretty safe bet that lash glue will keep your rhinestones stuck to your face even if you're going out to an event or party. I've definitely worn looks like this, and the rhinestones always stay really well. The only area that can be a little bit tricky is around the mouth. My advice would be to go buy a portable straw and use that if you're drinking anything. It makes it a lot easier to consume liquid without messing up the makeup on your lips. If you do a chest design, you have to go all the way and add at least a few rhinestones. This glam skull is beautiful just like this. It looks amazing under colored lights. It's so twinkly, sparkly, glamorous, but I do think it could be a little bit better. If you want to level up pretty much any Halloween makeup look, I highly suggest adding contacts. These ones are called Storm White from the brand Kazzue. I always put the link where I buy them in my description. They're like my favorite contacts to use for Halloween looks, but mainly skull looks. I just feel like the whited out eyes really complements the skull for some reason. They are kind of difficult to see out of. You definitely can't drive in these. I would recommend, if you're wearing them out, to have like a buddy with you that can guide you around if you need it in dark areas or areas that might be a little bit harder to see in general, because they definitely impair your vision a bit. Anyways, once we've added the contacts, this is the final look. I'd love to know what you think. Let me know in the comments. I'm really curious how you feel about this one compared to my original version.